Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Transpicuous News. I'm back. I tell you what a crazy week this has been. It is July 16th. Woke up this morning to yet another earth-shattering, groundbreaking piece of news that is still currently playing out at the moment. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into some of the little bit of background pieces that maybe aren't being discussed about, especially in the mainstream media. So, in case you hadn't heard, overnight, the country of Turkey has been under a military coup. Groups within Turkish military apparently attempted to have a coup in the country. It's not really clear at the moment what's going on because the reports, they're changing every 5 minutes. So I'll give you the update of just what we know so far. So aspects of the Turkish military performing a coup. Their initial announcement was that they would be bringing the country back into constitutional law, and reinstigating human rights, basically all the kind of good stuff you'd want to say if you're doing a coup. Definitely bringing it back to like a human rights reforms and within the letter of the law again. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So we have explosions, reports of explosions in Turkish parliament. There is video footage inside, purportedly, of Turkish parliament with explosions being bombed. Aerial explosions. There was also reports that the tanks surrounding parliament, tanks firing on police stations, various ministries. So lots of shit has been going on. I've been at this now for 6 hours straight. Hence the fact I haven't even brushed my hair yet today. Interesting reports, though. Some of the little bits and pieces, and you know me, I fly through all the different news areas, going all through Iranian news, Iraqi news, Middle Eastern news, look through the European news, etc., and let's see what is being talked about. Because there's a lot of conflicting reports. Now, it really got interesting about 2 hours ago. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of this with you. Now, Erdogan was missing. First it was, they don't know where he is. Then it was he was in a safe place. Then it was he was on vacation somewhere. Then it was that he was out of the country. Then it was he was flying into the country. And then it was flying to the capital of Turkey. And then it was he was going to Istanbul. So all over the place. Then there were reports that he's finally landed. Now, apparently, in these reports now that Erdogan landed, which would have been about an hour and 15 minutes ago, he's now, of course, the coup's over. We've taken the country back. We're now rounding everybody up. There's been military has been arrested, the ones who were part of all this. One of the generals reportedly part of this has been killed. Yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of interesting pieces. You know, for example, him saying that the pro-coup forces were firing on civilians. I find this highly doubtful because if you're trying to take over a government on the basis of what they tried to say, you're not going to start firing on civilians. Other interesting thing was, very, very early on, as soon as this happened, Erdogan gave a very bizarre speech over FaceTime to CNN in Turkey, calling for all the citizens to go out on the streets and stop the coup. Which, I don't know, personally, if I was the leader of a nation and I was actually looking out for the best interests of the people, I don't know that I'd be ordering them to go out on the streets to stop the military coup. Call me old-fashioned, but I'd be telling my people to go hide and let the professionals, deal with the military who got the tanks and the jets and the helicopters and the machine guns. But no, apparently Erdogan thought it was a good idea to just tell all his people, go out on the street and protect me. Well, come on, guys. You know I hate this man anyway, so you know I'm going to take the piss. Anyway, The reports go that he's come in, he's landed now. They're now saying the coup is over. Lots of stuff going on in Istanbul. No one's talking about Ankara, though. And it seemingly seems like there's still a lot of shit going on in Ankara. And there's a lot of pictures of a lot of tanks on the street. I will be following this very, very closely. Well, I want to go back and talk about some of the little bits and pieces that have come out during this. Like, for one, let's go over here. Okay, one of the first things that happened, apparently, this is Iraqi news, is that the Turkish army ordered all troops stationed in Iraq to withdraw from Iraq immediately. Now, we followed this on Transpicuous News since back in November when basically Turkey invaded Iraq and the Iraqi government was demanding to the UN Security Council, you get these fuckers out, get the hell out of our country. Turkey wouldn't move. And now, Turkish army is ordering, purportedly, all the troops that are in Iraq to get out. Interesting little piece, number one. Now, we have some interesting reports also. Now, this is out of Fars News, which is out of Iran. In Damascus, thousands of people took to the streets in celebration of Erdogan's overthrow, shouting joy and support for President Bashar al-Assad. The Turkish government is a main ally and sponsor of the anti-government military groups of Al-Sharam and Al-Nusra Front. Big shock, like we didn't know that. The Al-Qaeda's official branch in Syria. Down below, here, some European and Turkish media outlets claim that the president has demanded Germany to give him political asylum. I thought that was really fucking interesting, so of course I had to go looking. And we have reports. MSNBC announced on their own stations, I verified it, U.S. senior military source tells NBC News that Erdogan refused landing rights in Istanbul, is reported to be seeking asylum in Germany. Well, then it was also then reported that he was refused. MSNBC reported Erdogan was in an airplane that had been refused landing at Istanbul and was now trying to seek asylum in Germany, according to U.S. defense officials. But then it was said NBC subsequently reported that Mr. Erdogan's asylum request was rejected by Germany and he was thought to be flying to London. Well, one of the wonderful things that we have at our fingertips is, of course, flight trackers. I love it. And I love that there's so many people, every time shit like this happens, there are people out there who are so on the ball. And they've got, oh, look, here's Erdogan's flight path. And we see him. He takes off from where his little vacation spot is. And we see him. And he sits here. And he circled, encircled, encircled this area before flying on to Istanbul. So is this when he was making requests of some country to please let him in so he'd have some place to hide? Just saying. I'm just going on the reports that everyone else said. Okay, so let's do a little review, though, because some really interesting fucking shit has been happening in Turkey over the last 4 weeks, especially in the last week, but in the last 4 weeks anyway. For example, Turkey and Russia are making friendlies again out of the blue, because, you know, Russia did kind of take exception when Turkey shot down their airplane, killed their pilots and stuff in the fighter jets. And, you know, it's been tense. So all of a sudden we have announcements, very interesting announcements, I might add. Turkey's decision to offer Russia a reset in relations could have serious repercussions. Both countries now speak about the need to fight Islamic State and share military intelligence. This was, I'll pull up the date on this, this was July 6th. Now, starting in, from what I can backtrack, June 28th to July 6th, we had a lot of interesting shit happen in Turkey. A sudden turnaround with Turkey trying to open communication with Russia. Let's make friendly. Let's remove those sanctions you've put on our country, please. We really, really need the Russian tourists to come back to Turkey, because there's one of their main bits of money that they had trickling in, you know, besides selling oil for ISIS. Did I say that? Oh, sorry. hearsay only. So we have this. We also have a little turnaround with Turkey making noises to settle things a little better in Syria. And we have this news article, which is really important and, of course, never discussed by the Western media at all. July 16th. This was originally published yesterday on the 15th. Okay. Algeria mediated secret Turkish-Syrian talks. Damascus believes the new Turkish prime minister has a clean slate and may be willing to do business with them. Yes, because there's a brand new prime minister. Now, is he another Erdogan flunky? I mean, it's to be seen. We'll see. From Beirut, Algeria mediated secret talks between Syria and Turkey ahead of recent announcements by the Turkish prime minister that appeared to signal a Turkish reassessment of its enmity with the regime of Bashar al-Assad. Okay, interesting. Secret meetings between Turkey and Syria? This is just announced, and I mean just, before there's a military coup? Interesting. Let me flip our images over here. Let's go over here. Something else very interesting happened 3 days ago. And again, I didn't see any Western coverage on this whatsoever. Okay? Give me a second here, folks. Okay? U.S. to provide direct military and financial support to the Peshmerga in Iraq. Acting Minister of Peshmerga Affairs and U.S. Acting Assistant Secretary of Defense signed a memorandum of understanding in Erbil on Tuesday that the Pentagon will fund the Peshmerga, i.e. the Kurdish militias, privately, not including Baghdad in the negotiations. This is a major piece, and I've talked about the tension that has been going on this subject for the last year on Transpicuous News back in December 2015 when all the shit was blowing up in Iraq, and they were talking about this, and they were saying Iraq stated that the U.S. keeps trying to undercut the Iraq government by negotiating directly with the Kurdish militias. Well, guess what? They just, and back then, Ash Carter and all the rest of them, they all tried to deny it. Oh, no, we're not doing that at all. No, we'll just rephrase that piece of the agreement. No. They've gone ahead and they've done it. Well, let's just say it didn't go over very well in Iraq. Okay? MPs in the Iraqi government, this is a really bad Google Translate, so bear with me, guys. Express MP for the Front Reform, surprised by the government's silence on the signing of a military protocol between the Kurdistan regional government and the Pentagon. It said in a statement today that our government, and then the silence was ignored, exceeded by the province on their powers of exclusion, ignoring the lack of respect America has as a government, and the conclusion of a protocol without her consent. I mean, a conclusion of a protocol without the Iraqi government's consent. And the Iraqi government has sat quiet on this and not said anything. Well, we all know that the Iraqi government is a very divided government. We also know that America has a fuckload of enemies. And there's a lot of ministers within the Iraq government who've made no quibbling comments, very, very, very straightforward, saying, yeah, U.S., you need to get the fuck out. We're not dealing with you anymore. And now the U.S. has gone behind the Iraq government, behind Baghdad's back, to fund Kurdistan, the Kurdish militias, the PKK. Oh, who's been fighting the Kurdish militias nonstop, especially since July of 2015? Turkey. Turkey has been firing on all the Kurdish militias within their own borders, and as of August of last year, have been firing on into Syria and Iraq on the PKK, which is one of the non-politically acceptable Kurdish militias, unlike the Peshmerga, which is the politically acceptable Kurdish militia. And dudes, if you can figure that one out, have fun. So we have 3 days before all this happens, before this coup in Turkey. You have the US signing a deal directly with the Kurdish government, with the Kurdish militias in northern Iraq. We have Turkey cutting new deals with Syria and Russia. Now all of a sudden there's a military coup. And I found it interesting in one article. It was out of one of the Middle East, and I'm sorry, I've crashed my computer several times today with loading up so many links. One article out of the Middle East stating that of the people, groups who are denouncing this coup takeover, the Kurdish minority leaders in Turkey are one of those ones denouncing the coup takeover. Interesting. There's a lot of stuff to look at this. Some of the things that are coming out that Erdogan's saying shows the obviously the blatant spin doctoring of this, the entire situation anyway, and we know they're going to spin doctor this. But Erdogan's already calling for mass arrests and calling treasonous acts. I have questions. Is there a chance that this was pre-planned deliberately to give Erdogan the excuse he needs to be able to wipe out any resistance within the military and the minority governments? By now, all he'd have to do is point a finger and say, oh, you were part of the coup. The rest of that. It's not beyond Erdogan. Let's face, folks, we've seen him do this shit before. Interesting, again, is timing. Anonymous called July 15th to be the day of rage. Called for people to stand up all over the US, all over the world, but especially in the US, on a day of rage. Nothing came. No one talking. But what happened on the night of the 14th? You have a false flag terror attack that kills approximately 80 people in France the night before. And just as the world is still reeling from this horror story of what played out in France, boom, military coup in Turkey the next day. Not even barely 36 hours later. No, not even close to 36 hours, maybe 30 hours later. Timing is interesting. Timing is very, very interesting. So I'm going to be watching this really, really closely. We got live updates coming in. They're changing the story, as they do, continuously. But we'll see. We'll see, my friends. There is a lot going on in the world right now, between the financial crumbling of markets, it's being blamed on Brexit, and then the miraculous stock market that bounces back, for no apparent reason that anyone can see. Terror attacks, military coups. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting shit going on right now. But I'll be back, no doubt. And I'll be tracking this one down, and we'll see what comes from it. See what else we can dig up on this. Stay tuned. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.